In our last episode, we looked at a seascape by Gustave Courbet. We saw how the shapes and colors generate a sense of bodily movement, and how the kinesthetics of the painting express the vitality and power of nature. Today, we turn to a seascape which is quieter, but no less powerful, Seurat's Evening Honfleur in the Museum of Modern Art in New York. The artist depicts a scene which is quiet, calm, and peaceful, but the painting is not inert or inanimate. It is full of life. A powerful diagonal, giving us the oblique recession of the shoreline, is weighted with a dark rock shape on the right, near the lower corner, while on the other side it is pushed upward by a vertical accumulation of dark shapes rising from the lower left corner. Observe that the rock on the right is higher on the canvas, and therefore farther back in space, than the somewhat less dark vertical pier shape in the lower left corner, which in fact extends to the bottom edge of the canvas. From here to here is only a few inches on the picture surface, yet the implied distance in the depth of the picture is very great. Contrast this distance with this distance. This distance moves only a little distance into depth, but it is relatively long distance on the two-dimensional surface. This vector, however, is both long on the surface and long in the depth, nearly equal in depth to this vector. This vector dramatizes or acts out the three-dimensional aspect of this one, which is otherwise inaccessible to our experience because it is disguised by the close surface connection of this point and this point with each other, through their proximity and the vertical conglomeration of dark shapes between them, and through their common attachment to the left edge of the canvas. The tension between this vector as a surface event and this vector as a spatial event is felt in the explosion or release of this point, the way it kicks all the way across the canvas and swings back into space. It is important that this point, and not this point, is the alter ego of this point in this drama, for we feel space swinging open and springing to life between the two locations. The space swings open counterclockwise into depth. The sun's reflection in the water seems to smack the horizon upward on the right side of the composition. A lowering of tone just above the horizon at this location gives the sky greater depth here, making it the deepest or farthest point in the painting. Long blue clouds move in from the right frame to lead our eyes over to the left, and also downward and forward to here, the summit of the triangle of land. Here the upward force of this vector meets the returning force of the sky, whose luminosity is intensified at this point. From the shock of encounter between the dark land mass and the light sky, a staccato beat of perpendicular piers bounces down the inclined vector of the shoreline, and then, after a pause, we get the much heavier beat of the rock here, from which the reflected sunlight pushes upward again. As we enter more deeply into the unceasing circulation of Seurat's painting, we become more attentive to the active interrelationships of all the pictorial elements. We notice that the large triangular shape of the sea is echoed in miniature in the lower right corner in the little piece of water which pushes the rock up and back. This luminous little triangle also points toward the dark shape here. This dark shape is lopsided, tipping over to the right and pushing the lighter sand area forward and to the right. This movement is felt as a reaction to the movement of the clouds. The clouds move slowly, majestically, inexorably, and their cumulative power is very great. They impart tremendous force to the whole plane of the sky, and this force is brought to bear on the summit of the landmass, pinning it to the frame. From this mighty impact, the shoreline avalanches down to the right. The distant column of smoke is caught between these plains, the shore below it pulling to the right, and the sky above it with its clouds pushing in the contrary direction. The space here gets warped by the friction. Consequently, the column of smoke has to bend to the left. The blue color of the smoke relates to the clouds, but its diagonal character relates to the shoreline. Yet whereas the shoreline is oblique because of orthogonal recession, the smoke, like the clouds, is parallel in its principal axis to the picture plane. Thus the smoke mediates not only sky and land, but three-dimensional space and two-dimensional projection as well. How alive this seascape is! The drama of it vividly unfolds, a forceful presence, living and active as nature herself is. Seurat has known the wonder of this beach at Honfleur, the magnitude and power of the elements, the sea and the sky. And he gives us this vivid presence through the forces of the lines, planes, tones, and volumes of his painting. He does not just remind us of an experience of nature, he gives us that experience in the painting.